Marcus Chen had always thought his biggest problem in life was explaining to his parents why he hadn't found a nice human girl to settle down with. Now, staring at his alien girlfriend Zara as she wagged her tail nervously in their tiny apartment kitchen, he realized his problems had just gotten infinitely more complicated. "What did you just say?" Marcus asked, hoping he had misheard her over the hum of the atmospheric recycler. Zara's ears drooped slightly, a sure sign she was anxious. Her species, the Kithra, looked remarkably like anthropomorphic dogs to human eyes. Though they found that comparison deeply offensive, they preferred to be called canine-adjacent sentient beings in official diplomatic documents. "I said we are expecting pups," Zara repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. 3 of them, according to the medical scanner. Marcus felt his knees go weak. He grabbed the counter for support, accidentally knocking over his coffee mug. The brown liquid splashed across the white surface, creating abstract patterns that somehow reminded him of his life spinning out of control. "But how?" he stammered. "I mean, we're different species. The biology doesn't work that way, does it?" Zara's tail stopped wagging entirely. "Apparently it does. Dr. Velka says that human and Kithera genetics are more compatible than anyone previously thought. She called it an unprecedented biological breakthrough." She paused, tilting her head in that adorable way that always made Marcus's heart skip. "She also said we should probably inform the scientific community, but I told her we needed to talk first." Marcus slumped into one of their mismatched kitchen chairs, a relic from his bachelor days when furniture coordination seemed unimportant. "This is insane. We've only been together for 8 months. I can barely take care of my houseplants, and now we're having—" He gestured helplessly. "What do we even call them? Puppies, babies? Hybrid offspring?" "I prefer pups," Zara said firmly, her protective instincts already kicking in. "And they are not hybrid offspring. They are our children." The weight of that word, children, hit Marcus like a meteor strike. He had imagined having kids someday, in the abstract way that young adults do. Someday when he had a better job, a bigger apartment, maybe after he figured out how to keep Basil alive for more than 2 weeks. He certainly hadn't imagined having children with his alien girlfriend who required a special dietary supplement and howled at Earth's moon during certain phases. "Okay," Marcus said, taking a deep breath. "Okay, let's think about this logically. What did the doctor say about the pregnancy? Is it safe? Are you safe?" Zara's expression softened and she moved closer, placing her furry hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm and comforting, as always. "Dr. Velka says I am perfectly healthy. The pups are developing normally, though she admits she has no baseline for normal in this situation. She wants to monitor me closely and possibly publish research papers about us." "Great," Marcus muttered. "Our kids are going to be science experiments before they're even born." "They will not be experiments," Zara said sharply, her ears standing at attention. "They are our pups and we will protect them. That is what parents do." Marcus looked up at her, seeing the fierce determination in her golden eyes. Zara had always been protective of those she cared about. It was one of the things he loved most about her, even when it meant she growled at delivery drivers who came too close to their door. "You're right," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I'm just processing. This is huge, Zara, life-changing huge. Are we ready for this?" Zara sat down across from him, her tail curling around her feet. "I do not think anyone is ever truly ready for pups. But we love each other, yes? And we are both responsible adults with steady employment and adequate housing." Marcus glanced around their cramped apartment. "Adequate might be generous. We'll need a bigger place. And what about your family? Have you told them yet?" Zara's ears flattened against her head. "No, I wanted to tell you first. But Marcus, my family will not be pleased. Interspecies relationships are still controversial on my homeworld. Interspecies reproduction will cause a significant uproar. What about your pack leader? Your father? Alpha Corvin will probably challenge you to ritual combat," Zara said matter-of-factly as if discussing the weather. Marcus choked on the sip of water he had just taken. "Ritual combat? With your father?" "Zara, he's the size of a small building and has fangs that could cut through steel." "He is not that large," Zara protested. "And his fangs are only ceremonial now." "Mostly ceremonial. But yes, he will want to test your worthiness as a mate and potential father to his grandpups." The reality of their situation began to settle over Marcus like a heavy blanket. This wasn't just about them anymore. There were families to consider, societies to navigate, and somewhere in the mix, 3 little beings who would depend on them for everything. What about my parents? Marcus asked, suddenly realizing he would have to explain this to his traditional Chinese-American family. How do I tell my mother that her grandchildren will have tails and possibly howl at the moon? Zara's expression brightened slightly. Perhaps we could frame it as an expansion of cultural horizons. Despite everything, Marcus found himself laughing. It started as a small chuckle but quickly grew into full-blown, slightly hysterical laughter. Zara watched him with concern until he wiped tears from his eyes. "I'm sorry," he gasped. "It's just 6 months ago. The biggest decision I had to make was whether to upgrade my data plan. Now I'm going to be a father to 3 interspecies children, and I have to survive ritual combat with your father." Zara reached across the table and took his hands in hers. Her paws were soft and warm with just a hint of the claws she kept carefully trimmed. "We will figure it out together," she said simply. "Humans are known throughout the galaxy for their adaptability and resourcefulness. Kithera are known for their loyalty and protective instincts. Our pups will have the best of both species." Marcus squeezed her hands gently. "You really think we can do this?" "I know we can," Zara said with conviction. "But first we need to go shopping for a bigger apartment, and possibly some books on interspecies child-rearing. Do such books exist?" "If they don't," Marcus said, feeling a strange sense of determination settling over him, "I guess we'll have to write them ourselves." Outside their window, the city hummed with the sounds of humans and aliens living together in the sprawling metropolis of New Geneva. Somewhere out there, other interspecies couples were probably facing similar challenges. Marcus and Zara were pioneers whether they wanted to be or not. As Zara's tail began wagging again, Marcus realized that despite his terror, he was also excited. They were going to be parents. It was going to be the adventure of several lifetimes. 3 weeks after the Bombshell announcement, Marcus found himself standing in the waiting room of the Interspecies Medical Center, holding Zara's hand while she filled out forms that seemed designed to confuse even the most intelligent beings in the galaxy. The questions ranged from standard medical history to bizarre inquiries about dietary, restrictions during lunar cycles, and whether either parent had ever been exposed to quantum radiation. Question 37, Zara read aloud, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Has the human partner ever consumed synthetic proteins that might interfere with Kithera reproductive hormones?" She looked at Marcus. "What does that even mean?" Marcus shrugged helplessly. "I eat protein bars sometimes. Do those count as synthetic?" A nearby Zelthari couple, easily recognizable by their blue skin and gill slits, looked over with curiosity. The female leaned toward her partner and whispered something that sounded like bubbling water. Marcus caught the word unprecedented in Universal Standard before they turned away. "I think we're attracting attention," Marcus murmured to Zara. "We have been attracting attention since we started dating," Zara replied, not looking up from the forms. "Remember the incident at the restaurant when that Morphean diplomat asked if he could study our courtship rituals for his dissertation?" Before Marcus could respond, a tall, elegant being with pale green skin and an impressive set of antennae emerged from the medical offices. Dr. Velkis moved with the fluid grace common to her species. The Aldorians, who had been practicing medicine longer than humans, had been using fire. "Miss Zara." "Mr. Chen," Dr. Velkis said, her voice carrying the melodic quality that made all Aldorians sound like they were singing. "Please come in. I have some interesting developments to share with you." They followed her into an examination room that looked more like a high-tech laboratory than a traditional medical facility. Holographic displays showed complex genetic sequences, and several devices that Marcus couldn't identify hummed quietly in the background. "First," Dr. Velkis said, activating a 3-dimensional display. "I want to assure you that both Zara and the developing pups are in excellent health. However, our research has revealed some fascinating information about your offspring." The hologram showed what appeared to be 3 small, glowing shapes. Marcus stared at them, realizing he was looking at his future children for the first time. His throat tightened with unexpected emotion. "What kind of fascinating?" Zara asked, her tail twitching with nervous energy. Dr. Velkis manipulated the display, zooming in on the genetic structure. "It appears that the combination of human and Kithera DNA has resulted in some unexpected enhancements. Your pups will likely possess abilities from both species, but potentially amplified beyond what either parent species normally exhibits. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of abilities? Enhanced physical strength and agility from the Kythera lineage, combined with the human capacity for rapid learning and adaptation. But more interestingly, preliminary scans suggest they may develop enhanced empathic abilities and possibly even limited telepathic communication with their parents. Zara's ears perked up. Telepathic communication? Nothing dramatic, Dr. Velkus assured them quickly. More like an enhanced emotional bond. Many Kythera already have rudimentary pack-bonding telepathy. But human neural plasticity seems to be amplifying this trait significantly. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit he'd developed since the pregnancy announcement. So you're telling us our kids are going to be superpowered empaths who can read our minds? Not read your minds, exactly, Dr. Velkus clarified. More like sense your emotional states and basic intentions. Think of it as an advanced form of parental bonding. It should actually make child rearing easier, as you'll always know when they need something. Great, Marcus muttered. No hiding anything from our kids, ever. Zara squeezed his hand. This is good news, Marcus. It means we will be closer to our pups than most parents ever dream of being. Dr. Velkus continued, pulling up another display. There's something else. Word of your pregnancy has reached the Galactic Council. They're very interested in your case from a diplomatic standpoint. Diplomatic? Marcus asked, not liking where this was going. Interspecies reproduction has always been theoretical. Your pups represent the first successful case of human Kythera crossbreeding, which has significant implications for future relationships between your species. The Council has requested permission to document your pregnancy and the early development of your children. Zara's protective instincts immediately flared, and Marcus could see her hackles rising slightly. Our pups are not specimens for study. Of course not, Dr. Velkus said soothingly. This would be completely voluntary, and any research would be conducted with your full consent and participation. Think of it as contributing to interspecies understanding and cooperation. Your children could be pioneers in building bridges between different worlds. Marcus looked at Zara, seeing the conflict in her golden eyes. On one hand, her protective maternal instincts were telling her to keep their pups away from any outside interference. On the other hand, her rational mind recognized the potential importance of their situation. What would this documentation involve? Marcus asked. Regular checkups, developmental assessments, and perhaps some interviews about your experiences as an interspecies family. Nothing invasive or harmful. The information would help other couples like yourselves and could influence policy regarding interspecies relationships across the galaxy. We need time to think about it, Zara said firmly. Of course, Dr. Velkus nodded, but I should mention that there are already 3 other interspecies couples in similar situations who have approached the medical center after news of your pregnancy began, circulating in academic circles. Marcus's eyes widened. 3 others? A human Zentari pairing, a human Blix couple, and remarkably a human Valdorian relationship. It seems that humans have a particular genetic compatibility with several species that we never suspected. As they left the medical center an hour later, Marcus's head was spinning with information. They walked through the busy streets of New Geneva in comfortable silence, watching the diverse mix of species going about their daily lives. Humans hurried past wearing business suits, while Kythera family groups moved in coordinated packs. Graceful Eldorians glided between slower-moving Bruntari, and the occasional Zelthari couple splashed through the decorative water features that lined the main thoroughfares. A credit for your thoughts, Zara said as they paused at a traffic light. I keep thinking about what Dr. Velkus said about our kids being pioneers, Marcus replied. Part of me is excited about that, but part of me is terrified. What if we mess this up? What if we're not good enough parents for children who might be historically significant? Zara stopped walking and turned to face him fully. Marcus Chen, listen to me carefully. We are not raising historically significant specimens. We are raising our pups. They will be loved, protected, and cared for just like any other children. The fact that they happen to be the first of their kind does not change our primary job as their parents. Marcus smiled, feeling some of his anxiety ease. You're right. I'm overthinking this. You are human, Zara said with affection. Overthinking is what your species does. It is also what makes you excellent problem solvers and adaptable parents. They resumed walking, and Marcus found himself studying the other families they passed. A human father was teaching his young daughter to operate a hover scooter, while his Eldorian partner watched nervously. A mixed group of Kythera and human teenagers were sharing some kind of street food that smelled deliciously spicy. "You know what?" Marcus said suddenly. "I think we should do it. The documentation thing. If our kids are going to be pioneers anyway, we might as well make sure we're helping other families who come after us." Zara's tail wagged approvingly. "I was hoping you would say that. But we set boundaries. Our family comes first, always." "Always," Marcus agreed. As they headed home to their increasingly cramped apartment, Marcus realized that somewhere between the medical appointment and this moment, his perspective had shifted. He was no longer just a guy who happened to be dating an alien. He was going to be the father of 3 remarkable children who would grow up in a galaxy full of possibilities he couldn't even imagine. The future was uncertain, but for the first time since learning about the pregnancy, Marcus felt genuinely excited about discovering what it would bring. The apartment hunt had become a special kind of torture that Marcus was convinced violated several interspecies treaties on cruel and unusual punishment. After 3 weeks of looking at overpriced, undersized living spaces, he and Zara had developed a system. Zara would sniff the air for any concerning odors while Marcus checked for adequate Wi-Fi coverage and proximity to good takeout restaurants. "This one has promise," their real estate agent, a enthusiastic Centaurian named Clicks, announced as he opened the door to their 15th viewing. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a small outdoor space perfect for... He paused, looking at Zara uncertainly. "Well, for whatever activities your species enjoys." Zara's ears flattened slightly. "We do not require a yard for activities. We are sentient beings, not pets." Marcus quickly intervened before the situation could deteriorate further. "What my girlfriend means is that we'd appreciate outdoor space for our future children to play in safely." Clix's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion among his species. "Children? But you are different species. How do you—" "Modern medicine is amazing," Marcus said firmly, taking Zara's hand. "Now, could we see the bedrooms?" The apartment was actually decent, with more space than their current place and windows that faced away from the main traffic routes. The rent was astronomical, but Marcus had been promoted at his job after his company learned about his unique family situation. Apparently, being in an interspecies relationship made him valuable for their diversity and inclusion initiatives. "The building has excellent security," Clicks continued, leading them through the spacious living room. "And the neighbors are very quiet. Well, except for the Blix family on the 4th floor, but they only sing their traditional morning songs during full moons." Zara perked up. "I may also vocalize during certain lunar phases. Will this be acceptable?" "Oh yes," Clicks assured her quickly. "We're very tolerant of cultural expressions here." As they examined the largest bedroom, which would serve as the nursery, Marcus tried to imagine 3 cribs fitted into the space. Dr. Velkus had mentioned that Kythera pups developed faster than human babies, so they might need toddler beds sooner than expected. The thought of 3 superpowered empathic toddlers running around made his head spin. "We'll take it," Zara said suddenly, startling both Marcus and Clicks. "Don't we want to discuss this first?" Marcus asked. Zara shook her head. "This place feels right, safe. The scent markers indicate the previous tenants were happy here. My instincts say this is where our pups should grow up." Marcus had learned to trust Zara's instincts over the past year. Her enhanced senses had saved them from several questionable restaurants and one apartment with a serious mold problem that had been painted over. "Excellent choice," Clicks exclaimed, pulling out his datapad. "I'll start the paperwork immediately. Oh, but I should mention that the building does require additional insurance for interspecies families. Something about potential property damage from enhanced offspring." "Enhanced offspring?" Marcus asked, feeling a familiar knot of anxiety in his stomach. "Standard procedure," Clicks assured him. "Ever since the Valdorian Turcan family on Sigma Colony accidentally destroyed their kitchen when their child manifested early telekinetic abilities." An hour later, as they walked home through the busy evening streets, Marcus found himself doing mental calculations about insurance premiums, moving costs, and baby supplies for 3 children who might or might not develop supernatural abilities. "You are thinking very loudly," Zara observed, bumping his shoulder gently with hers. "Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the logistics of everything. We need 3 cribs, but what if they develop enhanced strength and break regular furniture? Do they even make reinforced baby equipment?" Zara stopped walking and turned to face him, placing her hands on his shoulders. "Marcus, you are doing it again." Doing what? Trying to solve problems that do not exist yet. Our pups are not even born, and you are already worried about them breaking furniture with superhuman strength. Marcus sighed. You're right. I know you're right. But what if Dr. Velkus is wrong about their abilities? What if they're more enhanced than she thinks? What if... Zara silenced him by pressing her furry finger to his lips. What if they are perfectly normal, healthy pups who happen to be the best of both their parents? What if we are worrying about nothing? Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed with an incoming call. The display showed his mother's contact information, and his blood pressure immediately spiked. Oh no, he muttered. I forgot I was supposed to call her yesterday. Answer it, Zara encouraged. You have been putting off telling your family for too long. Marcus reluctantly accepted the call. Hi, Mom. Marcus, finally. I was beginning to think you had been kidnapped by space pirates or something equally dramatic. His mother's voice carried clearly through the phone's speakers, and several passers-by glanced in their direction. No space pirates, Mom, just busy with work and other things. Other things? What kind of other things? Are you eating properly? You never eat properly when you're stressed. And when are you going to bring that alien girlfriend of yours to meet your father and me? We've been dating for almost a year now. Marcus caught Zara's amused expression and realized she could hear every word of the conversation. Actually, Mom, about Zara. Is she there? Put her on the phone. I want to talk to her. Before Marcus could protest, Zara gently took the phone from his hands. Hello, Mrs. Chen, this is Zara. There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by his mother's excited voice. Oh my goodness. You sound lovely. I've been so curious about you. Marcus never tells us anything useful. Are you taking good care of my son? He's hopeless at taking care of himself. I take excellent care of him, Zara assured her, grinning at Marcus's embarrassed expression. In fact, Mrs. Chen, we have some news to share with you. Marcus's eyes widened in panic, but Zara was already continuing. Marcus and I are expecting children. 3 of them. The silence that followed lasted so long that Marcus wondered if the call had been dropped. Finally, his mother's voice returned, notably higher in pitch. Children? 3 children? But how? I mean, are you sure that's medically possible? Modern medicine is very advanced, Zara said diplomatically. The doctors assure us that everything is progressing normally. Oh my, Marcus's mother said faintly. This is wonderful news. Unexpected, but wonderful. Wait until I tell your father. He owes me 50 credits. I told him you two were serious. Marcus took the phone back, feeling slightly dizzy. Mom, are you okay with this? Okay with it? Marcus, I'm going to be a grandmother. To 3 babies. Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting for grandchildren? Your cousin Wei already has 2 kids, and your brother keeps saying he's too busy with his career. But Mom, Marcus said carefully, they're going to be different. Part alien. So, your father and I have been watching alien cooking shows for months trying to understand Cathera culture. Did you know they have 17 different words for family pack? It's fascinating. Zara's tail was wagging so hard that Marcus worried she might injure someone walking behind them. I like your mother very much, she whispered. The conversation continued for another 20 minutes, with his mother demanding details about due dates, asking about Zara's family, and immediately beginning to plan a baby shower that would apparently include authentic Earth traditions and appropriate Cathara customs. When they finally ended the call, Marcus felt emotionally drained but oddly relieved. That went better than expected, he admitted. Your mother is wonderful, Zara said warmly. She will be an excellent grandmother to our pups. 1 family down, 1 to go, Marcus said, thinking about the upcoming meeting with Zara's pack. Think your father will be as enthusiastic? Zara's expression grew thoughtful. Alpha Corvin will come around eventually, after he finishes challenging you to ritual combat and testing your worthiness as a mate and father. Right, Marcus said weakly. The ritual combat. I keep forgetting about that part. As they continued toward home, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed in such a short time. A year ago, his biggest concerns had been meeting project deadlines and remembering to pay his utilities bills on time. Now he was preparing to become a father to 3 potentially telepathic children, while navigating interspecies family dynamics and planning for ritual combat with his girlfriend's father. Somehow, despite all the uncertainty and chaos, it felt like exactly where he was supposed to be. The transport ship to Kythera homeworld looked exactly like what Marcus had imagined an interstellar passenger vessel would look like, which is to say, it was nothing like what he had expected. Instead of sleek chrome and flashing lights, the ship resembled a massive, comfortable den with curved walls, warm lighting, and enough cushioned seating areas to accommodate various species' different anatomical requirements. Marcus adjusted his ceremonial outfit for the 100th time as they approached the docking bay. Zara had insisted he wear traditional Kythera formal wear for meeting her pack, which involved a surprising amount of leather, metal clasps, and what appeared to be synthetic fur trim. He felt like he was cosplaying as a space barbarian. "Stop fidgeting," Zara said, though her own nervous energy was obvious in the way her tail twitched and her ears swiveled at every sound. "You look appropriately respectful." "I look ridiculous," Marcus muttered, trying to adjust the ornate belt that kept shifting around his waist. "Are you sure this is necessary? Would you prefer to meet Alpha Corvin while wearing your usual human business attire? Because I can assure you that would be interpreted as a grave insult to our pack traditions." Marcus decided to stop complaining about the outfit. The ship's intercom crackled to life, announcing their arrival at Kythera Prime in heavily accented Universal Standard. Through the viewport, Marcus got his first glimpse of Zara's homeworld. It was beautiful in a wild, untamed way, with vast forests stretching to the horizon and mountain ranges that disappeared into cloudy peaks. Cities were visible as organized clusters of structures that seemed to blend seamlessly with the natural landscape. "It's gorgeous," Marcus said honestly. Zara's expression softened. "Wait until you see the northern territories where my pack lives. The Aurora forests are particularly beautiful this time of year." As they disembarked, Marcus was struck by the immediate sensory differences from Earth. The air smelled like pine and something else he couldn't identify, something wild and clean. The gravity was slightly lighter, making each step feel bouncy and strange. And everywhere he looked, he saw Kythera going about their daily lives in what appeared to be a perfectly organized society that still somehow felt primal and natural. "They are staring," Marcus observed as they made their way through the spaceport. "Of course they are staring," Zara replied matter-of-factly. "You are the human who mated with one of their own and created hybrid offspring. You are either a fascinating curiosity or a terrible threat, depending on their perspective." "That's reassuring. A small group of Kythera pups, actual children, not the offspring he and Zara were expecting, pointed at Marcus and chattered excitedly in their native language. Their parents quickly hushed them, but not before Marcus caught several familiar words, including human and what sounded like strange smelling. "Did they just say, 'I smell weird'?" Marcus asked. "You smell like human," Zara explained. "To Kythera, that is distinctive. Do not take it personally." Their transport to the Northern Territories was a sleek vehicle that moved silently through landscapes that took Marcus's breath away. Forests gave way to rolling hills, which transformed into dramatic mountain valleys filled with structures that looked like they had grown rather than been built. The Kythera settlements blended so perfectly with their environment that Marcus sometimes wasn't sure where nature ended and civilization began. "Tell me again what I'm supposed to say to your father," Marcus said as they approached what Zara had called the pack compound. "Be respectful but not submissive. Show confidence but not arrogance. Demonstrate your worthiness as a provider and protector without appearing to challenge his authority as Pack Alpha." "Right," Marcus said weakly. "Simple." The pack compound was larger than Marcus had expected, with multiple buildings arranged around a central courtyard where dozens of Kythera were going about various activities. As their transport pulled up, he could see that word of their arrival had spread. Kythera of all ages had gathered to observe the human who had somehow managed to impregnate one of their own. Alpha Corvin was unmistakable even in the crowd. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with silvery fur marked by distinctive black patches that Marcus knew indicated high rank among Kythera leadership. His presence dominated the courtyard in a way that was both impressive and terrifying. "He's bigger than you said," Marcus murmured to Zara. "I may have understated his physical presence to avoid causing you additional anxiety," Zara admitted. "Thanks for that." As they approached the welcoming committee, Marcus tried to remember everything Zara had taught him about Kythera social customs. Direct eye contact was important, but shouldn't be sustained too long. Showing empty hands was a sign of peaceful intentions, and under no circumstances should he turn his back on Alpha Corvin, until formally accepted into the pack. Alpha Corvin, Zara said formally, stopping several feet away and bowing her head slightly. I present Marcus Chen, my chosen mate and the father of your future grandpups. The massive Kythra studied Marcus with intelligent amber eyes that missed nothing. When he finally spoke, his voice was surprisingly cultured, with only a slight accent. So you are the human who has chosen to mate with my daughter? Yes, sir, Marcus replied, grateful that his voice came out steady. I love Zara very much and I'm committed to being a good partner and father. Alpha Corvin circled him slowly, and Marcus forced himself to remain still, despite every instinct screaming at him to flee. He was acutely aware that everyone in the courtyard was watching this interaction with intense interest. You are smaller than I expected, Alpha Corvin observed. Humans are supposed to be formidable warriors, yet you appear quite fragile. Humans aren't typically known for physical strength, Marcus said carefully. Our advantages lie in adaptability, problem-solving, and persistence. Alpha Corvin completed his circle and stood directly in front of Marcus again. And you believe these qualities make you suitable to father and raise hybrid offspring, who will likely possess enhanced physical capabilities? Marcus felt sweat beginning to form on his forehead, but he maintained eye contact. I believe that children need more than physical strength from their parents. They need love, guidance, protection, and support. Those things don't require enhanced physical abilities. A murmur ran through the watching crowd. Marcus couldn't tell if it was approval or disapproval. Alpha Corvin's expression remained unreadable. You speak well for a human, but words are easy. Actions demonstrate true character. He paused dramatically. I challenge you to ritual combat. Marcus's heart sank. He had been hoping they could skip this part. However, Alpha Corvin continued, given the delicate condition of your mate and the unique nature of your offspring, I propose a modified challenge. Modified how? Marcus asked cautiously. A slow smile spread across Alpha Corvin's features, revealing teeth that could definitely cut through steel. We will compete in the traditional trial of wisdom instead of physical combat. 3 challenges that test intelligence, creativity, and problem-solving ability rather than strength and speed. Marcus felt a wave of relief. This sounded much more manageable than being mauled by his girlfriend's father. I accept your challenge, Marcus said formally. The crowd erupted in excited chatter. Apparently, the trial of wisdom was unusual enough to generate significant interest. Excellent, Alpha Corvin said. We will begin tomorrow at dawn. Tonight you will feast with our pack and tell us of human customs and traditions. My daughter has chosen unusually, but perhaps... He glanced at Zara with obvious affection. Perhaps she has chosen wisely. As the crowd began to disperse and various pack members approached to introduce themselves, Marcus felt cautiously optimistic. He might actually survive meeting his in-laws. Now he just had to figure out how to win 3 challenges designed by an alien culture he still barely understood. That went well, Zara said quietly, moving to stand beside him. Define well, Marcus replied, watching Alpha Corvin disappear into the largest building in the compound. He did not immediately declare you unworthy and forbid our mating, Zara pointed out. By pack standards, that is practically an enthusiastic endorsement. Marcus decided to take that as a win. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight he was going to focus on making a good impression on his extended alien family and trying not to think about what exactly a trial of wisdom might involve. Dawn on Kythera Prime arrived with a spectacular display of colors that reminded Marcus why humans had always been drawn to explore the unknown. 3 moons were still visible in the brightening sky, casting overlapping shadows across the courtyard where pack members had already begun gathering for the trial of wisdom. Marcus had barely slept, partly due to excitement and partly because the guest quarters had been designed for Kythera physiology. The bed was essentially a large, comfortable pile of cushions and furs that would have been perfect if he had been 4-legged and possessed a tail. You look terrible, Zara observed as she brought him a steaming cup of something that smelled like coffee, but tasted like spiced tea. Thanks for the confidence boost, Marcus muttered, grateful for the caffeine-like effects of whatever he was drinking. I mean, you look tired but determined, Zara corrected. It is a good look for you, very, rugged. Alpha Corvin appeared at the center of the courtyard, and the assembled pack members immediately fell silent. He had exchanged his casual wear for elaborate ceremonial robes that somehow made him look even more imposing than usual. "Marcus Chen," Alpha Corvin called out formally. "Are you prepared to face the trial of wisdom?" "I am," Marcus replied, walking to the center of the courtyard. His voice carried clearly in the morning air, which he hoped projected more confidence than he actually felt. "The trial consists of 3 challenges," Alpha Corvin announced to the crowd. "Each tests a different aspect of wisdom: the ability to solve complex problems, the capacity to understand others, and the skill to create harmony from conflict." An elderly Cathara female approached carrying an ornate wooden box. She opened it to reveal what appeared to be a 3-dimensional puzzle made of interlocking metal pieces that seemed to shift and change as Marcus looked at them. "The first challenge," Alpha Corvin explained, "is the puzzle of infinite paths. It is said that only one who can see beyond the obvious can solve it. You have until the sun reaches its peak." Marcus accepted the puzzle, immediately noting that it was heavier than it looked and warm to the touch. As he began examining it, he realized that the pieces weren't just moving randomly. They were responding to his touch and somehow anticipating his intentions. "It's adaptive," he murmured, trying to understand the underlying logic. For the next 2 hours, Marcus worked steadily while the pack watched in respectful silence. The puzzle was unlike anything in human engineering, part mechanical device, part optical illusion, part computer program. Every time he thought he understood the pattern, it would shift to present a new configuration. Finally, he realized that the key wasn't to force the pieces into a predetermined solution, but to work with the puzzle's adaptive nature. Instead of trying to impose his will on it, he began responding to its changes, creating a collaborative dance between human intuition and alien technology. The puzzle suddenly clicked into place, forming a perfect sphere that pulsed with gentle light. The pack erupted in surprised murmurs, apparently solving the puzzle that quickly was unusual. "Interesting," Alpha Corvin observed. "You approached it as a partnership rather than a conquest. Very human, and very wise." The second challenge involved what Alpha Corvin called reading the pack's heart. Marcus was presented with 5 different scenarios involving pack members and asked to identify the underlying emotional dynamics and suggest appropriate responses. This was actually easier than the puzzle. Marcus's experience dating Zara had taught him to pay attention to subtle cues in Cathara body language and behavior. He correctly identified a territorial dispute between 2 young males, recognized signs of grief in an elderly female who was trying to hide her pain, and spotted the early stages of a romantic courtship that the participants thought they were concealing. "You see clearly," Alpha Corvin acknowledged. "This will serve you well as a father and pack member." The final challenge was the most complex. Marcus was presented with an actual pack dispute that had been ongoing for months. 2 families were in conflict over resource allocation, with each side convinced they were being treated unfairly. The dispute was affecting pack harmony and needed resolution. Marcus spent an hour listening to both sides present their cases, asking questions, and gathering information. The more he learned, the more he realized that the conflict wasn't really about resources at all. It was about respect and recognition. "The problem isn't the distribution of hunting territories," Marcus finally announced to the assembled pack. "The problem is that both families feel their contributions to the pack aren't being properly valued." He proposed a solution that involved rotating responsibilities to give both families opportunities to demonstrate their different strengths, combined with a formal recognition ceremony that honored their unique contributions to pack welfare. Alpha Corvin listened to the proposal with growing interest. "And you believe this will resolve their conflict?" "I believe it addresses the real issue underlying their conflict," Marcus said. "Sometimes people argue about one thing when they're really upset about something else entirely." The 2 feuding families looked thoughtful, then began nodding slowly. One of the family leaders stepped forward. "The human sees truly," she announced. "We have been so focused on proving our worth through what we could take that we forgot to see what we could give." Alpha Corvin raised his arms, and the entire pack fell silent. "Marcus Chen," he said formally, "you have demonstrated wisdom, insight, and the ability to bring harmony from discord. These are the qualities needed to raise the next generation of our pack." He paused dramatically. I accept you as a worthy mate for my daughter and a fitting father for my grandpups." The crowd erupted in celebration, with pack members howling their approval in harmonious chorus. Marcus found himself swept up in enthusiastic congratulations from Kithara, who had been politely distant just hours earlier. "You did well," Zara said, appearing at his side with her tail wagging proudly. "Very well. I think you surprised Alpha Corvin with how effectively you understood our ways." "I had a good teacher," Marcus replied, pulling her close for a hug that was somewhat awkward given their different anatomies but filled with genuine affection. Alpha Corvin approached them, no longer the intimidating pack leader but a father pleased with his daughter's choice. "Welcome to the pack, Marcus Chen," he said formally, then added more quietly, "and welcome to the family. Your pups will be raised with love and wisdom from both their heritages." "Thank you," Marcus said sincerely. "I promise to do everything I can to be worthy of your trust." "I believe you will," Alpha Corvin replied. "Now we must discuss practical matters. Your pups will need to understand both human and Kithara traditions. They will face unique challenges as the first of their kind." Over the next several hours, Marcus found himself in detailed discussions about child-rearing practices, educational approaches, and how to help hybrid children navigate two very different cultures. The pack's collective wisdom was impressive, and their genuine concern for his future children was touching. "We should return to Earth soon," Zara mentioned as the sun began to set. "Dr. Velkus wants to monitor the pup's development closely, and we still need to finish setting up the nursery." Alpha Corvin nodded. "But you will return regularly. Your pups should know their pack heritage as well as their human heritage." "Of course," Marcus agreed. "They'll know where they come from." As they prepared to leave the next morning, Marcus reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. He had arrived as an outsider trying to prove himself worthy of acceptance. He was leaving as a pack member with an extended family that spanned light years, and included beings he was still learning to understand. The transport back to the spaceport was filled, with gifts from various pack members, or traditional items for the nursery, protective charms for the pups, and enough preserved Kithara delicacies to last through several pregnancies. "Your family is amazing," Marcus told Zara as they settled into their seats for the journey back to Earth. "Our family," Zara corrected, "and soon our pups will make it even larger." Marcus looked out the viewport as Kithara Prime fell away beneath them, already planning their next visit. In a few months he would be returning with 3 new members of the pack, children who would represent the best of both their worlds. The future was full of unknowns. But for the first time since learning about the pregnancy, Marcus felt completely confident that they could handle whatever came next. They had the support of 2 families, the guidance of medical experts, and most importantly, they had each other. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The contractions started at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday, which Marcus noted with the kind of precise mental record-keeping that emergency situations tend to produce. Zara had been restless all evening, pacing around their new apartment with an energy that her doctor had warned them might signal the beginning of labor. "Marcus," Zara called from the bedroom, her voice carrying a note of urgency that had him instantly awake and alert. "I think it is time." Dr. Velkus had prepared them for the fact that Kithara labor progressed much faster than human pregnancy, but nothing could have prepared Marcus for the controlled chaos of getting Zara to the Interspecies Medical Center at 3:30 in the morning. The hover taxi driver, a grumpy Blix who clearly hadn't expected to transport a laboring Kithara and her panicked human partner, muttered complaints in his native language while navigating through empty streets at speeds that violated several traffic regulations. "How are you doing?" Marcus asked Zara, holding her hand as another contraction passed through her. "I am managing," Zara replied, though her grip on his hand was strong enough that Marcus wondered if he would have full feeling in his fingers again. "The pups are eager to meet their parents." The medical center was ready for them. Dr. Velkus had established a specialized birthing suite equipped to handle the unique requirements of interspecies delivery, and the nursing staff moved with the efficient calm of professionals who had been preparing for this moment for months. "How are we progressing?" Dr. Velkus asked as she completed her initial examination. "Rapidly," Zara said through gritted teeth. "Much more rapidly than expected." "That's normal for first-time Kithara mothers," Dr. Velkus assured them. "Your pups are developing at an accelerated rate compared to purely human pregnancies." They're ready to be born. Over the next 4 hours, Marcus discovered depths of anxiety he hadn't known he possessed. The medical staff assured him that everything was progressing normally. But normal for an unprecedented interspecies. Birth wasn't exactly comforting. Dr. Velkus monitored everything, with multiple scanners and instruments that hummed and beeped in patterns. Marcus tried not to interpret as alarming, I can see. "The first pup crowning," Dr. Velkus announced. "Zara, on the next contraction, I need you to push." Marcus found himself holding his breath as his first child entered the world. The pup, their daughter as it turned out, was smaller than he had expected, but perfect in every way that mattered. She had Zara's golden fur but Marcus's darker hair on her head, and when she opened her eyes for the first time, they were a striking green that came from neither parent. "She's beautiful," Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face without his permission. "She is perfect," Zara agreed, exhausted but glowing with maternal pride. The second pup, a son, arrived 20 minutes later with considerably more drama. He was larger than his sister and apparently possessed enhanced lung capacity, judging by the volume of his protests about being removed from his comfortable environment. "This one will be a leader," Dr. Velkus observed with amusement as the medical staff worked to clean and assess the loudly complaining infant. The third pup, another daughter, made her entrance into the world with remarkable calm. She looked around with intelligent curiosity, as if she were assessing her new surroundings and finding them acceptable. "3 healthy pups," Dr. Velkus announced, her voice filled with genuine wonder. "Perfect hybrid physiology, enhanced development rates, and preliminary scans suggest they possess the enhanced empathic abilities we predicted." Marcus looked at his 3 children, his actual, real living children, and felt his entire understanding of himself shift permanently. He was no longer just Marcus Chen, software engineer and accidental pioneer in interspecies relationships. He was Marcus Chen, father of 3 remarkable beings who would grow up in a galaxy full of possibilities. "What should we name them?" Zara asked, cradling their eldest daughter while Marcus held their son. They had discussed names extensively, trying to find options that would work in both human and Kythera cultures. Their eldest daughter became Luna, after the Earth's moon that had featured in their early courtship. Their son received the name Kai, which meant warrior in several Earth languages and wise hunter in ancient Kythera. Their youngest daughter was named Stella, for the stars that had brought their parents together across space. The next few days passed in a blur of medical assessments, family visits, and the steep learning curve of caring for 3 newborns who developed faster and had more complex needs than purely human babies. Marcus's parents arrived from Earth looking overwhelmed but delighted. His mother immediately took charge of organizing feeding, schedules, and diaper changes with the efficiency of someone who had raised children in an era before. "Advanced alien medical technology. They're so alert," his father observed, watching 3-day-old Kai track movement with his eyes. "Human babies don't usually focus like that for weeks." Alpha Corvin and a delegation from Zara's pack arrived on the 4th day, bringing traditional gifts and enough ceremonial items to establish a small shrine in the hospital room. The pack leader's first meeting with his grandpups was surprisingly emotional, with the normally stern Alpha making soft cooing sounds that Marcus was fairly certain weren't part of standard Kythera vocabulary. "They carry the best of both bloodlines," Alpha Corvin announced after spending an hour examining each pup carefully. "They will be strong, intelligent, and connected to both their heritages." Dr. Velkus's research team documented everything with the family's permission, creating what would become the definitive record of successful human Kythera reproduction. Other interspecies couples from across the galaxy sent congratulations and requests for advice, making Marcus realize that their family had become a symbol of something much larger than their personal relationship. "How does it feel to be galactic celebrities?" Dr. Velkus asked during one of their checkups. "Terrifying and wonderful in equal measure," Marcus admitted, watching Luna attempt to grab her own tail with the single-minded determination of someone who had inherited her mother's persistence. The enhanced empathic abilities became apparent almost immediately. The pups seemed to communicate with each other through means that had nothing to do with vocalizations, often settling down simultaneously or becoming agitated at the same time for no apparent reason. More surprisingly, they responded to their parents' emotional states with remarkable sensitivity. "They know when you're worried, Zara observed as all three pups began fussing during a particularly stressful conversation with the hospital's insurance coordinator. "That's going to make parenting interesting," Marcus said, trying to project calm thoughts while internally panicking about the cost of specialized interspecies medical care. When they finally brought the pups home to their new apartment, Marcus felt like they were embarking on the greatest adventure of their lives. The nursery that had seemed spacious during setup now felt cramped with three rapidly growing hybrid children who seemed determined to test every piece of equipment's durability. "Welcome home," Marcus whispered to his sleeping children on their first night back from the hospital. Luna was curled up in what appeared to be a perfect sphere. Kai had managed to kick off his blankets despite being swaddled, and Stella was watching the play of shadows on the ceiling with fascination. Zara appeared beside him, looking tired but content. "They are perfect," she said simply. "They are," Marcus agreed. "Completely, absolutely perfect." As he stood there watching his children sleep, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago, he had been a single guy whose biggest relationship challenge was remembering to text back promptly. Now he was the father of three children who represented the future of interspecies cooperation and understanding. It was overwhelming and terrifying and wonderful, exactly like parenthood was supposed to be. The only difference was that his children might develop telepathic abilities and would grow up knowing that their very existence had helped bring different worlds together. Outside their apartment window, the city hummed with the sounds of dozens of species living and working together. Somewhere out there, other interspecies families were following in their footsteps, creating new possibilities for connection and understanding. Marcus Chen, father of three, pioneer of interspecies parenting, and the luckiest man in several galaxies, settled into the rocking chair beside his children's cribs and prepared for whatever adventures tomorrow would bring. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the backyard of their new house watching his three children play in what could only be described as a controlled chaos that defied several laws of physics. Luna had figured out how to climb trees with a combination of enhanced agility and pure determination that would have impressed professional athletes. Kai was attempting to dig what appeared to be a complex tunnel system beneath the garden shed, his enhanced strength making short work of the supposedly child-proof barriers Marcus had installed. Stella sat calmly in the center of the yard, apparently coordinating their activities through the telepathic connection that Dr. Velkus still couldn't fully explain. "They're going to destroy the neighborhood," Marcus said to Zara, who was watching their children's antics with the patient resignation of someone who had given up trying to contain forces of nature. "They are exploring their environment and testing their abilities," Zara corrected. "This is normal development for pups with enhanced capabilities." "Normal?" Marcus gestured at Luna, who had somehow managed to reach a branch that should have been physically impossible for a 6-month-old to access. "Define normal." "Our normal," Zara said with a grin that showed her fangs. "Besides, look how happy they are." Marcus had to admit that his children were indeed happy. Their enhanced development meant they had skipped most of the helpless infant stage and moved directly into what could best be described as superpowered toddlers with excellent coordination and questionable judgment. The doorbell chimed and Marcus went to answer it, expecting another delivery of specialized baby equipment or possibly another reporter wanting to interview the galaxy's first interspecies family. Instead, he found Dr. Velkus standing on his doorstep with a data pad and an expression of barely contained excitement. "Marcus," perfect timing, "I have the results from the latest developmental assessments, and they're remarkable." Dr. Velkus had become something between a family friend and a personal physician over the past months,
monitoring the pup's unprecedented development while somehow managing to make her research feel supportive rather than intrusive. How remarkable,
Marcus asked, leading her to the backyard where Zara was attempting to convince Kai that digging to the planet's core was not an appropriate afternoon activity. "Luna, Kai and Stella are developing at approximately 3 times the normal rate for either human or Cathera children," Dr. Velkus announced. "Their cognitive abilities are advancing even faster than their physical development, and their empathic connections are strengthening beyond anything we predicted." As if to demonstrate her point, all 3 children immediately stopped their activities and looked toward the adults with identical expressions of curiosity. Stella stood up and toddled over to Dr. Velkus with the purposeful gait of someone who had important business to conduct. "Hello, Dr. Velkus," Stella said clearly, her vocabulary already more advanced than most human children twice her age. "Are you here to check our development again?" Dr. Velkus's eyes widened. Her language skills have improved dramatically since last week. "They all talk to each other constantly," Marcus explained. "Sometimes out loud, sometimes through whatever telepathic connection they have. They're teaching each other at an accelerated rate." Kai abandoned his excavation project and joined them, followed by Luna, who dropped from her tree with a grace that made Marcus's protective parental instincts wince. "We have been practicing," Luna announced proudly. "Stella says we need to learn human words and Mama's words and the words that everybody understands." "Universal standard," Kai clarified helpfully. "For when we meet other species." Dr. Velkus made rapid notes on her datapad. "They're already thinking about interspecies communication at 6 months old. This is unprecedented." "Everything about our family is unprecedented," Zara observed, gently preventing Kai from returning to his digging project by redirecting his attention to a puzzle toy that was supposed to challenge children 3 times his age. Over the next hour, Dr. Velkus conducted her assessment while the children demonstrated abilities that consistently amazed their parents. Luna showed off her climbing skills by scaling the house's exterior wall to retrieve a ball that had gotten stuck in the rain gutter. Kai displayed problem-solving abilities by figuring out how to disassemble and reassemble a complex toy that had previously stymied Marcus. Stella demonstrated her empathic abilities by correctly identifying the emotional states of everyone present and suggesting appropriate responses. "They're not just advanced," Dr. Velkus concluded. "They're developing entirely new ways of processing information and interacting with their environment. The combination of human adaptability and Kithara pack bonding instincts is creating cognitive patterns we've never seen before." "Is that good or bad?" Marcus asked, watching his children work together to build an elaborate fort out of furniture and blankets, with an efficiency that suggested detailed planning and coordination. "It's extraordinary," Dr. Velkus said. "They're going to need specialized education and socialization opportunities. Traditional schooling won't be adequate for their developmental needs." Marcus felt the familiar knot of parental anxiety forming in his stomach. "What kind of specialized education?" "I've been in contact with the Galactic Council's Department of Interspecies Affairs," Dr. Velkus explained. "They're developing a pilot program for hybrid children like yours. Other interspecies families are facing similar challenges, and there's growing recognition that these children represent something entirely new." Zara's ears perked up with interest. "Other families?" 7 other successful human-alien pregnancies have been documented in the past 6 months, Dr. Velkus reported. "Word of your success has inspired couples across the galaxy. There's a human Zentari family expecting twins, a human Valdorian couple with a single child, and several others in various stages of pregnancy." Marcus sat down heavily on the porch steps, processing this information. "So we're not unique anymore?" "You're still the first," Dr. Velkus assured him. "But you're no longer alone. These families are looking to you for guidance and inspiration." As if sensing their parents' emotional state, all 3 children immediately abandoned their fort construction and approached the adults. Stella climbed into Marcus's lap. Luna curled up against Zara's side, and Kai positioned himself where he could maintain physical contact with both parents. "Are you worried about us?" Stella asked with the direct perception that still startled Marcus. "We're proud of you," Marcus said honestly, "and maybe a little concerned about making sure you get everything you need to grow up happy and healthy." "We will be happy," Luna said with absolute confidence. "We have good parents and we have each other. And we have the pack," Kai added, referring to their extended Kithara family with the casual inclusion that made Marcus's heart warm. "And we have friends coming," Stella announced, her empathic abilities apparently extending beyond immediate family. "Other children like us," Dr. Velkus looked startled. How could she know about the other hybrid children? "She knows things," Marcus said, having given up trying to understand the full extent of his children's abilities. "We've learned to trust her insights." As the afternoon progressed and Dr. Velkus departed with her research data, Marcus found himself reflecting on how much their lives had changed. The scared young man who had learned about his alien girlfriend's pregnancy seemed like a different person entirely. The challenges hadn't gotten smaller. If anything, they had become more complex as the children developed their unique abilities. But somehow, they felt more manageable. Do you ever regret it? Marcus asked Zara as they watched their children play in the garden while the sun set behind them. Regret what? All of this. The complications, the attention, the fact that our kids are going to grow up in the spotlight as examples of interspecies cooperation. Zara considered the question seriously, watching Luna teach her siblings a game that seemed to involve a combination of tag and three-dimensional chess. I regret that they will face challenges that other children do not face, she said finally. But I do not regret having them or having them with you. They are extraordinary beings who will help shape the future of multiple species. That is not a burden, it is a gift. Marcus nodded, understanding what she meant. Their children would never have ordinary lives. But ordinary had never been an option once he fell in love with an alien and discovered that biology was more flexible than anyone had imagined. Besides, Zara added with a grin, can you imagine how boring our lives would be if we had ordinary human children who developed at normal rates and couldn't climb walls or communicate telepathically? Boring, Marcus agreed, laughing as Kai successfully convinced his sisters to help him finish the tunnel he had started earlier. Definitely boring. As night fell and they gathered their children for dinner, Marcus realized that somewhere along the way, the impossible had become normal. His family might be unprecedented in galactic history, but they were also simply his family, chaotic, loving, challenging, and perfect in all the ways that mattered. The future held unknown challenges and opportunities, but they would face them together as a pack, as a family,